On today's show, the Milwaukee Bucks escape from the Houston Rockets. Giannis and the gang get a win. Have they broken out of their early season slump? And Joel Embiid and the Sixers just look awful. How bad is it for the Sixers? We'll talk about that. And it's a great slate of games on Game Night.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
And welcome. You are Locked On to NBA Game Night. My name is Nick Angstadt, host of the Locked On Mavericks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being an everydayer, making Locked On NBA your first listen today. Today's episode is sponsored by PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code Locked On NBA for $50 off, or $50 instantly when you pay $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. And joining me, as always, from the great Locked On Bucks podcast, Camille Davis. What'd you see in the NBA tonight?
Man, some interesting games. A lot more fun than what I thought when I initially saw the slate of games, but that's the NBA for you. You get some fun when you least expect it sometimes.
We text before the night, all the game night hosts. We text each other, all right, here's the slate. What are you looking at? What are the games that we're thinking are going to be good? And I just texted Camille, these games sucked. And
I was like, hopefully, something's going to rise to the top.
And I was so glad to be wrong. What a great slate of games. We'll talk about a bunch of them. We'll go through it like we do on Game Night every night. Every single game in the association, we'll talk about each one of them. Let's start here with the Houston Rockets versus the Milwaukee Bucks. Your Milwaukee Bucks, they get a win 101-100. Last second, it came down to it. The Bucks were down by 6 with 1:50 left in this game. AJ Green gets a transition 3. Dylan Brooks takes an awful shot on the other end. Giannis gets a help block on Şengün that was huge. Then Dame drives and gets the scoop layup, and then Şengün got an open look at the basket on an inbounds play, and Fred VanVleet just overthrew him, just like a quarterback, just overthrowing a receiver, just like Jordan Love overthrowing. And Camille, what happened on the final few plays? Did Giannis step out of bounds? How did the Bucks pull this one out?
Okay, well I'll keep it a buck. I'm not gonna lie, Nick. He definitely
pun intended right there. You could not have.
He stepped out of bounds. But listen, the league owes the Bucks one after how the last 2 games have gone against Detroit and then against Charlotte. But no, I mean, it came down to it. The Bucks got off to a slow start in the game, picked it up, went into halftime up like 12. Third quarters and second halves have notoriously been bad for the Bucks this season. Again, it reared its ugly head for them. And then down the stretch, you saw them dig in defensively there. They got lucky too, but they did dig in defensively, like the bucket with AJ Green, that big 3 that he had. They overhelped and left Dylan Brooks wide open in the corner. The very last play, busted coverage again from that Bucks defense. You saw AJ Green and Gary Trent Jr. both get confused and follow Brooks, leaving Green open, caused some scrambling last second, but luckily that Fred VanVleet pass was too high. So it was a combination of some defense, some luck, but a lot of Brook Lopez in this game as well. The MVP of this game for the Bucks.
It was nice to see Brook Lopez have a bounce back, because we have not really seen the real Brook Lopez please stand up this season. But yeah, 27 points, 10 rebounds for him, 4 blocks, 3 steals. It was like, yes, the Brook Lopez that we've come to know and love on the Bucks, who had this resurgence. That was an awesome one for him, and against the Bucks and Şengün there. Only 18 points for Dame, only 20 points for Giannis. Yeah, like we said, Brook Lopez had the great game in this one, but what did you see from the Bucks in this one to pull it out late?
I saw a combination where it took everyone. This was a game where Andre Jackson Jr., who has been a defensive revelation for this team, started. Only played 5 minutes and did not see the court again until the very last defensive play. It was one of those games where everyone just had to try to dig in on this one. Brook Lopez really did lead the way defensively and offensively. You saw early in the game, the Bucks were looking real casual, which they happened to do a lot of the times. They picked up the pace and started playing a lot more competitively. The 3-ball wasn't falling for them outside of Brook Lopez and Gary Trent Jr. So they just had to continue to dig, play some defense and lean on that a bit more than what they have so far this season to get this win.
Did it feel like the Bucks from a couple years ago, like the Bucks team that won the finals, that they're
No.
leaning on their defense? It didn't feel like that at all.
Still not there yet. Still not there yet. But
I guess I just meant in style. Like I just meant in style.
Like it did not feel that way, because when that game was getting in that crunch time, Nick, I was like, oh boy, they're going to trick this off, ain't they? They're going to trick this off. But then lo and behold, like you have someone like Dame, who was not having a great night shooting the ball. You still give him the ball in those clutch time situations because he's Dame, and he made that game-winning shot for the Bucks. So it took a little bit from everyone. Even AJ Green, that three he made, that was the only three he made.
Huge, though.
Perfect timing for it. But again, it was just a little bit from everyone at the right time in this game.
If you're not watching the show on YouTube or the 24/7 stream or on Fast TV or on Amazon, Camille's face just told you everything you need to know about this at the beginning of this Bucks season. They've won 3 out of 4 now. Have they broken out of this slump? Have you seen progression from this Bucks team that they're actually breaking out of that early season slump?
I've actually seen some progression in them, even in some of those losses they've had against the Celtics and the Cavaliers, where you saw that they were executing the game at just a better level. They're finding the right rotations now. This was the first game we've seen no Pat Connaughton at all. Ryan Rollins was still injured, who has emerged, the two-way player for the Bucks, emerged as the new backup point guard for the team, and he was out. So you saw the Bucks lean on DeLon Wright, Gary Trent Jr., AJ Green a lot in this game, and Bobby Portis. Those were your only 4 guys off the bench for this Bucks team. And they're putting it together. They're finding the right combination of guys. You're seeing them execute better. There are still moments where you just see them completely stop doing what got them to a position of winning, but they're working through it. I'm feeling a lot more encouraged about the Bucks than I was early on this season.
You still don't think they're playing like the Bucks of the championship team?
That's
like
long gone, Nick. This is the whole different
just meant that they were like a better defensive team tonight.
And offensive.
The Houston Rockets, though, they had a shot at the end of this. Like, you can say all you want about it. The Bucks pulled this one out. They got the win, but the Rockets had a shot. Şengün, maybe he pushed off, maybe he didn't, but was right at the basket. If Fred VanVleet just throws a better inbounds pass with 4 seconds left, that this game is over, and the Rockets end up winning this one. What impressed you about the Rockets in this game?
That defense. I love the fact that they can bring Tari Eason and Amen Thompson off the bench. Like, I see why they call them the Terror Twins, because the two of them were terrorizing Dame. They were terrorizing Giannis, and Dylan Brooks was in foul trouble this game. So you saw a lot of Tari Eason in this game. And listen, they just have a lot of pieces that fit really well together. The young guys bring the great energy. Then you got like that steady vet presence like a Fred VanVleet. That's a really good Houston Rockets team that actually does a lot of things well that the Bucks tend to struggle with. Great on the offensive glass, a really good defense, top 3, top 5 in the league, top 11 offense. Like, just a well-constructed team that's playing well and being coached well too.
Yeah, that duo off the bench. Tari Eason in this game, 9 points, 14 rebounds, 4 steals, 3 blocks, 7 stocks for Tari Eason.
Big irritant. That should be on the list as well. Big irritant.
You rarely ever see the great defensive duo off the bench. It's usually like the Lou Williams, Montrezl Harrell. They're terrors off the bench, the guys that score, but you don't see these two guys. And Amen Thompson was guarding Giannis. Giannis got an offensive foul at the end of this game, and Amen Thompson laid on the floor for 15 minutes afterwards, but he was the one guarding him at that point. I mean, they were in key crucial possessions.
Yeah, sometimes you've seen over the years too, putting smaller guys on Giannis can bother him a little bit more. Not younger guys, but smaller guys tend to get away with a little bit more when they're guarding those bigs. They can be a little bit more handsy with Giannis, and you saw that a couple of times where Fred VanVleet got a bad switch on the Giannis, and he's both hands pushing Giannis on the back, no calls or whatever, because they just don't go that way. But again, a real scrappy defensive performance from a team that can just switch. And then even when you try to put them in disadvantaged situations, like getting Şengün on the switch or something like that, they're savvy enough to try to figure out how to cancel that switch and get the matchup they actually want on defense.
Rockets are 4th in the West now, but still 10-5 and 4th. Not a lot of people thought that they would be this high. After seeing them now, do you believe in this Rockets team, or you think they'll come back down to earth eventually?
I think they're a strong playoff team this year. They can definitely be that. And again, it's going to be a long season. The West is tough. 7-7 in the West is out of the playoff race completely, which would be 4th in the East right now. Yeah, so
you're telling me, right? You're telling me right now in the Dallas Mavericks, 11th, and they're 7-7. They would be 5th in the East right now.
It's a different game. So if Houston keeps playing the way they've been playing, they can make some noise.
Yeah, that defense, and if they just get enough offense from Fred VanVleet, Jalen Green, Şengün, whatever else they can get. I mean, Jabari did nothing in this game. 1 of 4 basically. They didn't get a ton of offense off the bench either. They can get anything. Maybe Reed Shepherd steps up, maybe somebody else, but they just get enough. And with that defense, they seem to be around for a while. And I'm curious to see where Ime Udoka takes this team. Coming up, let's get into the Sixers and the Heat. The Heat get a win, but it's the Sixers side of it where they just go down sad. Joel Embiid returns, but it wasn't great. We'll talk about how bad it was for the Sixers coming up. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. All you have to do is go to prizepicks.com, pick more or less than 2 to 6 players' stat projections. So they give you a stat, for example, more or less than 25.5 points. You pick more or less than that, and you just pick that. You can win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks, and you can play this game in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and my state of Texas. You can play Prize Picks in. So if you are out there going, man, I wish I could get in on, playing some of these games with sports, Prize Picks is the place for you. Go check it out. It's the best place to get real money on sports action. Join over 10 million users and sign up today. And right now, you can use that code LOCKEDONNBA, to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Play, 2 to 6 players in your lineup. Put down $5 on it. You use that code LOCKEDONNBA. You get $50 instantly, whether you win or lose on that. Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com. Download the app. Prize Picks. Run your game. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us on Locked On NBA Game Night. Being it every day or listening to the show, we have a daily Locked On show that covers your team. Check the link in the description to find a show that covers your team and a newsletter that covers your team every single day. In the link wherever you're watching this or listening to this. I'm joined by Camille Davis, Locked On Bucks. I'm Nick Angstadt, Locked On Mavs. We go daily on our shows. I did a show tonight. You did a show tonight, and we also got a show from Locked On Heat. Let's talk about the Heat first. They get a win. Let's hear from our guy. David Ramil of Locked On Heat.
Jimmy Butler was back in the lineup after missing the last 4 games with a sprained ankle, and he made his presence felt with 30 points. Miami staged a furious comeback in the second and third quarters after being down by as many as 19 and cruises to an easy 106-89 victory against the 76ers. The Heat had struggled from three-point range in the first half, but hit 7 of their 13 attempts in the third quarter to pull away from Philadelphia, and Tyler Hero dropped 16 points during Miami's comeback. It was an impressive win for the Heat on the second night of a back-to-back and back at home after a tough 6-game road trip, but they never gave up, utilizing their zone defense to hold the Sixers to under 90 points and easily winning the rebounding battle. Butler's strong return was the real story of the game, however, officially scoring on 8 of 12 shooting and converting all 13 of his free throw attempts. Miami is now 1 game under 500 and has 5 days off before a matchup against the Mavericks. For more on tonight's game, make sure to check out tonight's recap over at Locked On Heat.
We got to investigate that 5 days off thing before playing the Mavericks. we got to look at it. That's not even NBA Cup. Like, it's not the NBA Cup break. It's not the All-Star weekend. Like, what are we doing 5 days off for the Heat? And before they play the Mavs too, I'm personally offended by that. Jimmy Butler did get the return, 30 points for him, and he was a plus 29 in this game. The Heat were the Heat were down by 19 in the second quarter and then ended up making a comeback and built a 16-point lead by the third quarter. It was that middle of the game where the Heat just really took over. And we saw aggressive Jimmy Butler in this game. Is that the Jimmy Butler that they just need more? Is they just need more aggressive Jimmy every once in a while?
No, they definitely need aggressive Jimmy. He drives that offense as well. Like Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo, for sure, you need contributions from them. But we know this team goes as Jimmy goes. That's why playoff Jimmy over the last few years has been just like what you waited for all year long, because you knew once you got to the playoffs, Jimmy was going to take it up to another level. And when he does that, the Heat are really, really hard to beat.
Yeah, they are. And you're just more scared of him than you are of Tyler Hero, right? Like when Jimmy takes it to you. And you don't have to tell Jimmy either, because in the post game he was making sure that everybody knew he was the 1A and Tyler Hero was the 1B. He made him verbally say, Tyler Hero, he made him say that I'm the 1B and that Jimmy is the 1A after the game, which I found hilarious. But yeah, and getting to the free throw line 13 times, it just shows the aggressiveness of his game. I thought that was super important. And then 10 rebounds, 5 assists for him. He owned this one in a way that the Sixers just didn't have anybody that owned this game in the same way. So let's go over to their side. Joel Embiid returns. He plays his third separate game. He's been playing like one game, then he'll be off, one game, then he'll be off. He was questionable going into this game, and I think actually doubtful going into this game with a cold. Keith Pompey said on Locked On Sixers he had a cold, and it was just like a sickness. It looked like it. It looked like he was very sick in this game. He played 31 minutes, 5 of 11 from the field, just 11 points, only 8 rebounds, 5 assists for him, a couple of turnovers, but a minus 22. And I saw a couple of Sixers writers, tweet or post throughout this. Man, who would have thought that the Sixers would be winning the Jared McCain minutes and then having to survive the Joel Embiid minutes in this game, which in the first 3 quarters, that was the case.
That's how it's been. Like, I know Embiid was sick coming into this game, but what's the last 2 games that he played in? Because he has just not looked like Joel Embiid so far. And to your point about Jared McCain, he outscored both Embiid and Paul George the last 2 games, not just this game, but the last game that they were all in as well. So it's tough times in Philly right now. It is tough times. And a question for you, when you're watching Embiid play, do you think that this is, again, the illness, the coming back, just needing to kind of knock some rust off? Or do you think this might be something bigger when it comes to Embiid's health going forward?
You hope it's not something bigger, because we've seen this guy be awesome. He scored more than a point a minute last season. We saw him dominate. We saw him be an MVP 2 seasons ago. But watching him right now, like I'm just sad. You're just sad watching him. It looks like he's a guy that came into the NBA and is a step slow, and you're like, oh, this guy coming into the NBA, he's supposed to be this good rim protector. Maybe he can score here or there, but he's just going to be slow. That's just what he's going to be in the NBA. And like the NBA doesn't really have those guys anymore. So to see Embiid out there and be that is just sad. The Sixers had, the Sixers media waited over an hour for anybody to come into post-game pressers. And our old friend from Locked On Sixers in the past, Kai Carlin, said he asked Joel Embiid about the team meeting, because everybody, if you're sitting in there sitting waiting for an hour, they're talking about something in there. And Joel Embiid responded, "Oh, we had a meeting? I don't know."
Oh, brother.
He just denied it.
Oh, brother. I mean, I guess you want to keep the things in the locker room, I guess, but the vibes in Philly are
you can't even say it was good. Like, you can't even say the vibes were like, it was good. It was a good conversation. Nothing.
Those are some shaky vibes going on in Philly right now. I saw a stat. It said 106 teams have started 2-11 or worse in the NBA history. Only 8 of those teams have made the playoffs, and only 3 of those teams had a winning record. That's where the Sixers are at this point in the season. It's still early, yes. There is still time to dig yourself out, given how bad the East has been so far. But they got a tough couple of games coming up to end the month of November. It could get a lot darker before the light starts to come up for Philly.
I was reading Kyle Neubeck. He was writing about this, and he said that this beginning of the season has felt like a preseason for the Sixers. And you're like, man, you're like 14 games into the season now. You can't still be doing preseason, but that's what it does feel like for this, because it feels like Joel Embiid's still getting back into it, still, and he's only played these 3 games, and so it's bad for them, and it's going to get late quick for this team. Even though the East is allowing them to have a chance still, and will still have a chance. They'll probably make the play-in. They'll probably win their play-in game. They'll probably end up, facing somebody and be a tough out in the first round for somebody. But this is where they are right now. You mentioned Jared McCain. He joins 3 other Sixers, the only Sixers rookies with 5 straight 20-point games. Do you want to take a quick guess at who they are?
Ooh, rookies?
Easy ones. 2 of them are easy.
I'm going to guess one is Embiid.
Embiid is one, yes.
I'm going to guess, was Ivo one?
AI, Allen Iverson.
You gotta
one.
Get the low-hanging fruit on that one.
This one I forgot that he played for the Sixers, but Jerry Stackhouse.
Oh, yeah, he was a rookie there.
So he joins them. Jared McCain has been the bright spot on this Sixers team, like maybe the lone bright spot, but it's been awesome. The Sixers, if they know anything, it's hitting on these late first round guards between Tyrese Maxey and Jared McCain, because McCain has been absolutely awesome. He plays at his own pace. He scores 20 again. A great game for him, despite all the terrible vibes happening with the Sixers right now.
That's a fact.
Good vibes happening in Atlanta right now, because they get a win against the Kings. The Kings, Domantas Sabonis out, DeMar DeRozan out, Malik Monk out. This is one of those games that I texted you and said this looks terrible before it started, but it ended up being one of the most fun games of the night. Jalen Johnson out for the Hawks, but the Hawks go up 16 early, and then Keon Ellis. Where did this guy come from? I mean, last season we were discovering him, and now he's coming on. He had He hit 9 of 12 threes and had 27 points through the first 3 quarters. And then he went to the locker room with an injury. He ends up coming back, but he was absolutely scorching in this game. In the fourth quarter, 8:30 left. Keegan Murray fouls out. And then the last couple of minutes, De'Aaron Fox gets a tech. He was frustrated, the refs the whole time, and it came down. He got a clutch bucket with 1:50 left. Trae Young gets a turnover. Then Atlanta, there's some kind of challenge. The light was on, but nothing got challenged. And then they came back. Dyson Daniels got the final steal on De'Aaron Fox. And Kings fans, I really respect Kings fans sometimes. They all stayed in the lower bowl. All the players were off the court, and all the Kings fans are still in the lower bowl, at least what I can see on TV, standing there, pointing and looking at the replay on the screen over and over again because they can see that Dyson Daniels hit De'Aaron Fox in the arm or in the hands. My first question for you, though, is, was it a foul?
It was a foul. It was a foul, but it happened so quickly. The refs just gave Dyson Daniels the benefit of the doubt because he has been locking everybody up this season.
Yeah.
And once you get the reputation of a defender, you tend to get away with a little bit more.
Yeah, Lou Dort. What?
Shoot, I watched Drew Holiday for years. I saw it too. I was like, let him play.
Yeah, right.
Let him play.
Yeah, it was a wild play, but it was amazing to see like a last second defensive play to win a game. Usually we're waiting for the game winning bucket or something like that. De'Aaron Fox after the game said, quote, "The hands are part of the ball when it's convenient." Let's do a quick count it up. Do you agree with this or not?
I sure do. Because there was a call in this Bucks game against the Rockets today where it looked like good defense to me, but they said that it hit Tyrese and that hit Dame's hand, and I was like, it's interesting.
Isn't it? Because sometimes they do the wrist and they're like, oh, it touched the wrist, and the wrist is not part of the hand apparently. And so then they do that. Yeah, there's just a lot of ref frustration in this game. But I was super impressed with Trae Young, 7 points. And he was getting double teamed at half court in the fourth quarter because he had 19 assists in this game. He was just making everything happen. I think he was passing a little bit too much at the end of this. There's a couple times I think he could have gone for a floater or something, but it seems like he wanted that 20. It seemed like he wanted that 20th assist, but an impressive game for him nonetheless.
Yeah, I think that's one shy of his career high as well. I believe his career high is 20 assists in the game. So he probably was eyeing it after a while, but I love seeing Trae be able to affect the game in so many different ways. Like, we know him as a scorer, but the way that he can get his teammates involved as well is really impressive. So to see him have 19 assists, NBA season best so far, that was also kind of fun to see that kind of passing display.
Absolutely. Coming up, let's talk about the rest of the games in the association. Some great games. The Magic get a win. Knicks get a win. Raptors get a win. Clippers get a win. We'll hear from all of our hosts and more coming up on Locked On NBA. We'll play Count It Up coming up. Count it up. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook has all kinds of props and odds, things that you can use to get in on the action. If you're ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, it's America's #1 sportsbook. Go check it out and see how you can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Put down $5 on something. If you win, if it's your first $5, you win $150 in bonus bets. So go check it out. You've got a hunch in the middle of a game. Go check out FanDuel. They have all kinds of other stuff too. Latest stats, play-by-play, so much more on the same exact page where you put down some money. So you can go check it out. They have all kinds of stuff for the NBA as well. They have player parlays where you can pick player stats. They have awards. They have the NBA Cup odds, NBA Finals odds, all kinds of stuff like that. It's FanDuel.com. Join it today. You get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Big chicken, baby. Zion Williamson and porn star.
Take that from that.
Count it up. Count it up. Count it up. Count it up. Count it up.
The Los Angeles Clippers in the Inuit Dome get a win, a last-second win against the Golden State Warriors. The Kawhi Leonard was out. D'Anthony Melton was out. Curry was questionable going into this game. The Clippers got a 15-point lead. The Warriors cut it all the way down to 0 to tie the game in the third quarter. And then in the fourth quarter, they played even. Norman Powell, 9 points in that fourth quarter. And Curry got triple-teamed on the final play. My question for you is,
count it up.
Does anyone else have that much gravity in the NBA right now to get triple teamed, like to just everybody? We're not letting this guy shoot anybody else, but we're not letting this guy shoot.
Not from the perimeter that comes to mind, but Giannis is somebody who sees 3-4 bodies in front of that rim on high frequency. So I've seen some plays where it's like the whole team collapsed on Giannis at once. And it's just like, make the right pass in this situation. But on the perimeter, Steph is 101.
I mean, the closest that we've had in recent years is like Dame and some of his best times, right?
Portland,
like, and but you can't do it to like Jokic because he's too big and he'll make the right pass, right? You know, Luka doesn't have that right now, I don't think. Kevin Durant maybe at times, but I don't think you're throwing 3 guys at him. It just was wild to me to see like the screenshot of like the 3 guys running at him. It was absolutely wild, but a good win for the Clippers there. Let's hear from our host of Locked On Clippers, Darian Vaziri.
Outside into it, the Clippers have just beaten the Golden State Warriors for a second time this season. It was a great collective effort. First half, Clippers are making all their threes. Warriors are missing all their threes, but you knew eventually they would get back in the game. I thought we did a really good job forcing turnovers for the second straight game. Guys like Chris Dunn, Nicholas Batum, Amir Coffey, Derrick Jones Jr., even James Harden getting their hands on the ball. And you know, the Warriors in the past, not necessarily this season, have been a very high turnover team. So we did a good job of that. They clapped back. Steph Curry started to get hot second half. Amir Coffey made some really big plays defensively late in the game, and Norman Powell hit some huge shots late in the game. And one thing I loved was, you know, without Kevon Looney, the Warriors are going to try to go small and switch everything a lot. And Zubac was aggressive, drawing double teams and making plays. And how about Terrence Mann? You know, coming off the bench, this is his 3rd game coming off the bench, maybe 4th, I can't remember. But it's just been his 4th. He's been better off the bench, really solid all-around performance, great reads out of the short roll, and a solid win for the Clips, second against the Warriors, 2 in a row.
There you go. Go check out Locked On Clippers for more with Darian. Let's go to our next game, the Orlando Magic versus the Phoenix Suns. Phoenix Suns down a lot of guys. KD, Bradley Beal, Nurkic, Paolo still out for the Magic, and the Magic get the win. Let's hear from our guy, Philip Rossman-Reich from Locked On Magic.
Because the Orlando Magic pick up their 6th straight win with the 109-99 victory over the Phoenix Suns. The story today is the story of this last week and a half. Earlier on the day on Monday, Franz Wagner was named the Eastern Conference Player of the Week for the first time in his career. And very clearly, he's on the path to becoming an all-star. And Monday's win over the Suns is further proof of that. 32 points, 5 rebounds, 8 assists. And what was really amazing about this game was that Franz didn't really impose himself on the game until the second quarter. He was absorbing the double teams, looking at how the Suns were playing him and finding others first. And then he picked up the scoring in the second quarter. He picked up the scoring in the third quarter and finished the game in the fourth. If you don't believe that Franz Wagner is an all-star yet, let this game be proof that he is an all-star and is going to be heading to San Francisco this week.
Whew, there you go. How are you feeling about Franz Wagner being an all-star quickly?
Shoot, if he keeps playing the way that he has been with Paolo out, like, he's definitely going to have a strong case. So I would not be surprised to see that happen this year.
Magic have won 6 straight after losing 4 straight when Paolo first went out. So they're now 6-4 without Paolo. Magic are the first team since 2018 to hold opponents to less than 100 points for 6 straight games. That's the 6 games that they just won. How impressed on a scale of 0 to 5? How impressed are you in the Magic's bounce back?
That's a big 5 for me. I didn't know how they would go without Paolo, seeing the jump that he was making, but seeing Franz the first couple of games try to figure out what his offensive place was without Paolo and now stepping into that. And this defense, so you 6 games under 100 points for their opponents. 3 of those games were 90 or less. Like, they have been doing their thing.
Yeah, it's a 5. It's a 5 for me too. They've just been so impressive to watch, and they looked really bad in those 4 games, like right when Paolo went down. So the way that they've bounced back, to me, that's the part that I'm really impressed by. The New York Knicks get a win that's not necessarily impressive against the Washington Wizards because everybody beats them except for the Hawks. Let's hear from our guy Alex Wolf over at Locked On Knicks.
Knicks obliterated the Washington Wizards 134-106 on Monday night to extend their winning streak to 3 in a row, get 2 games over 500, and more importantly, look like they're starting to gel right before an easier part of their schedule. 8 of the next 10 games for the Knicks are looking pretty winnable, starting with the beginning of their West Coast road trip against the very injured Phoenix Suns coming up this week, then against the lowly Utah Jazz. Couple of games next week that look like they could be a challenge, obviously, in the Nuggets and the Mavs, but then a pretty cushy schedule after that. with Jalen Brunson cooking right now, 26 points, 11 assists, 9 of 15 field goals. Karl Anthony Towns, 24 points, 12 boards in this one, and all 5 starters in double digits again. Things are looking really good for the Knicks. They're even getting a chance to play some of their younger players. So things are looking pretty solid for the Knicks right now.
Feeling good about the Knicks. I thought he was about to go through the whole schedule. No, we're about to hear the whole schedule for the Knicks going. My question for the Knicks though is Jericho Sims threw down an insane dunk over Kyle Kuzma in this one. Somebody compared it to the DeAndre Jordan against Brandon Knight dunk. And I couldn't get there. I could like if the DeAndre Jordan dunk is a 5 and a 0 is like, you barely got it in. It was like a 3.5 or a 4.
Yeah, it's not the same as that dunk that DeAndre had. That's one of the most memorable dunks in like NBA history.
Yes. Yeah, it was the same style of dunk where he just he like bumped Kyle Kuzma in the air and then thrunked it, like threw it in the basket. But yeah, it was an insane one. Go look that up. Do yourself a favor. The Chicago Bulls get a win over the Detroit Pistons. Pistons were a 4.5-point favorite in this one. I found interesting, and they looked pretty even in this game. These two guys, which is good for the Pistons. Lonzo Ball out, Asar Thompson out for the Pistons, and Vucevic had 29 points and 11 rebounds through 3 quarters. He was dominating this one, and then the fourth quarter, it was Zach LaVine time. 6 threes in the fourth quarter, including 3 in a row to basically put the Bulls up and for them to not look back. My question is about the Bulls.
Count it up.
21.5 points a game on 50, 42, 77 shooting splits for Zach LaVine. How much longer is he on the Bulls?
Ooh, we'll see. We got that December deadline coming up. We got a lot of guys that become trade eligible.
Yep.
He can keep this up. He might be gone before Christmas.
Zach, hopefully you're not banking on spending Christmas in Chicago.
Maybe somewhere warm. I don't know.
I think by the trade deadline, they got to do something with him because he's about to be 30. He just is. I mean, him and Vooch are both like they stand out so much on this team with everybody else in the direction they're going. Seems like they're finally going towards rebuild. And the reason why I bring it up is because he's got value, especially looking at a game like this where you go, man, it's not just this albatross contract anymore. You can see that some teams will need some of this scoring, especially if you're going to play the Magic anytime soon. Yeah. Last game of the night is the Raptors getting a win. Let's hear from our guy Sean Woodley over at Locked On Raptors with the win over the Pacers.
Their first win since November the 2nd. A 7-game losing streak snapped against a Pacers team that, yes, was hurt and was on the second night of a back-to-back, but really had no answer all night long for R.J. Barrett. Man, his season has been really impressive. His efficiency has waned a little bit. He's been asked to do so much for the Raptors as their lead creator, but in this game, absolutely shut it down. The Pacers got it a little bit close down the stretch, a little bit hairy for the Raptors, a team that's had trouble closing games. No worries at all for R.J. Barrett. 14 points after checking in the middle going of the fourth quarter to completely lock this one down. Finishes with 39 points. He goes 13 to 21 from the field overall, 4 of 8 from downtown. Really masterful stuff from him. Jakob Poeltl as well, working pick and roll with R.J. Barrett. 30 points, 15 boards, 2 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 13 of 18. He's been ridiculous. It's his second straight 30-plus game. It's his third straight game of 25 points or more. He's been awesome. The Toronto Raptors get a win.
Good win for the Raptors there. First win in a couple weeks there. I'm happy for Sean Woodley and Locked On Raptors. There you go. That's the night of games in the NBA. We appreciate you guys for hanging out with us on Locked On NBA Game Night. If you want to check out the show that covers your favorite team, check the link in the description or just search Locked On whatever team on whatever platform you're on. Guys, thanks so much for hanging out with us on Locked On NBA. Be back for the midday show with Hayes, Doug, and Matt. Great stuff for them all the time on Locked On NBA.